the Lord revealed something to me. I thought today would be a casual day. There's never a casual day in Christ. As our apostle goes to address nations and speak to leaders, God has called me here today with a message for any leader that can hear my voice, for any leader that is watching online. Caution, watch your step. There's a reason why I wanted that song sung, Break Every Chain. There are chains that are still being put on the people of God. There are restrictions that stop us from meeting our Father. There are imposters who stand in the way of God. There are wolves in sheep clothing who wait to devour the people of God. And I speak to you on this morning, and I say, caution, watch your step. Because the same chains you put on the children of God shall be put on you. The same restrictions that you restrict the people of God to see the Father shall be put on you. Jesus. If you would follow me to Luke 14, chapter 34. Verse 34. Chapter 14, verse 34. We are still going on with some call it the prodigal son, the lost son. But there was something very important. As Apostle was preaching, the Lord laid it upon me. And it was freedom that was in that text that we are going to discover today. And it's going to set a lot of people free. So it says, salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? After, and then it says, it is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. See, the problem with the Bible is that that's the end of chapter 14. This is the problem with English translation. He wasn't done talking. This, you could even say, is the introduction to chapter 15. And when we go to chapter 15, verse 1, it says, then all the tax collectors and the sinners drew near to him to hear him. The leaders and the sick ones drew near to hear from God. And the Pharisees and the scribes complained, saying, this man receives sinners and eats with them. So he spoke this parable to them, saying, what man of you having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance. That was the first lesson. They didn't catch it. That was the first lesson. They didn't catch it. So he continues, or what a woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp, sweep the house, and search carefully until she finds it. And when she has found it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, "Rejoice with me, for I have found the piece which I lost. Likewise, I say to you, there is joy in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents." See, now, before he even gets into the son, he talks about something that they might understand, which is sheep and money. Even in their confused mind state, they could still understand sheep and currency. But then he's not done. And then he goes into the lost son. We all know the story, so I won't read the whole thing. But the interesting part for me was that the father had enough wisdom to not put a chain on his son so that he could walk out. See, the problem is the fathers, which we call fathers, have locked you into the temple. They don't want you to leave their presence. They don't want you to go outside of their view because they don't trust the Father. See what happens when there is no connection between Father, man, leader, and Father God. This human being will rule you on what I think is right. You see, we don't want any lost sons. We don't want anyone going on a travel mission to find themselves. I'll tell you who you are. You see, that's everything makes sense. Everything makes sense now. Everything makes sense. We go to church, we sing, we pray, and we go back to our dirt. You're never given a chance to get out of what you've been doing, to experience God. And the biggest problem is that you have people who are telling you, don't go there because you will sin, don't go there because you will do this, don't go there because you will do this, when it's you need to get it out of you. We keep the sheep too close. If you've ever seen a shepherd continues to walk. And he speaks and he sings to his sheep. And the sheep hear his voice and they follow. If one goes astray, he sees it. But he continues to walk. He wants to see what will happen with that sheep. The thing is, in America, we don't understand what it is to let your pet roam freely. We leave a leash on our animals. There's a law that you need to have a leash on your animals. The leash does not say that the dog obeys you. It says that the dog cannot leave if it wanted to. You don't have a trained dog unless you can remove the leash and he can roam. He can see other people. And then he knows, you're not my master, let me go back. You look unfamiliar, let me go back. In a trained dog, I've seen pit bulls trained. They won't eat from another hand. A trained pit bull will look at the food and just keep looking until his master says you can eat or come to me to eat. His jaw will remain locked. Only his tongue will be out. That's it. That's it. But what I've noticed, you have leaders, you have false leaders who stand before you and tell you you shouldn't go to places like this. You shouldn't be here. That's not your kind. Don't go there. Today I break every chain. Because the son realized something. As we fast forward, the son went to go party with people that weren't of his father's house. Because people of his father's house would have never allowed him to release what was inside. So he had to find those that we call the enemy. He had to waste everything. Mindset, currency, his will, everything had to go. You see, it's only a wise father that will understand, because the wise father set a precedent. Because now this lost son who came back will do the same for his son and do the same for his son. The more you have generations locked up, the more sin you have locked up. The more you allow your congregation to not freely release themselves from the iniquity that stays inside, you are cursing future generations. And the biggest problem is you become an enemy of God. Now, Apostle went over this, and it blew my mind. Everywhere I've been to, and I've heard this sermon, they always said he ate the food. They always said he ate with the swine. He never ate. Just that one sentence woke me up. The reason why the father can be so confident in letting his son go is that he knows that his son remembers where the food is. He remembers where his shelter is. He had to go to the pig's pen to realize, I have a house. I have a father. I don't need this. But what the world wants you to know is that he ate it. Because here's the revelation in it. If he ate what the pigs eat, he would have became a pig. He would have lost his sonship. He would have never realized I could go back home. It would have been, this is now my new home. This would have been his new home with his new clothes. Because trust and believe, he didn't have the clothes he left home with, because he left in style. And all the hungry people that was with him when they were partying, they took his clothes. You can imagine that. He probably sold what he had just to get crumbs. And then he had to go and give himself to someone so that he could work. But he never had a chain while he was working. He never had a chain while he was on the pig's pen. He was still free but lost. He was still free but lost. The father lets you go. You're free, but you're lost. You are never in chains by the enemy. You were never enslaved by the enemy. You were always lost but free. But what happens, you ate strange food. You started to cohabitate with strange people. And what happened is, you feel a discomfort. You feel something's not right. You feel this is not where I belong. But what happened is, you now have no sense of direction where to go, because you've disconnected yourself from the Father. I want to stay with the Son right now just for a little bit, because there's a lot going on in his life at this moment. He is now at the lowest point that he will probably ever see in his life. What was given to him by his father, he wasted. And now he's working, and he's not even eating. He's in a starved state of mind, physically, spiritually. With love, everything, he's starved, and he's working. And I've come to realize This is why church folk never change. This is why church seems to always be the same. It's because people stay starved. They're not eating. But that's not what you were called to do. You were never called to be starved. You were never called to be in the pig's pen. You were never called to give yourself to someone to work. Now to the Father. I love this Father because he reminds me of God. But I could name a list of pastors, preachers, teachers, evangelists who don't fit that. They don't even look like it. Their contract is, if you leave me, you're gone. Don't come back. They set up fences of shame, of guilt. They build strongholds of doctrines. So when the son gets to the lowest point and he wants to come home, he now has to fight with what the Father has set before him. So he is literally bumping, never getting to the Father. He could be in the vicinity of where his Father is, but never get to have a personal reconciliation with the Father. These wolves, the way I see it, they work hand in hand with those people that the son went to go party with. He is just as filthy and as ungodly as those who were partying and wasting the son's money. But yet those are the ones that we adore. Those are the ones that we want to be like. Those are the ones that we mimic, but we don't want to mimic love. We don't like reconciliation. Because why? You have to forget. You see, it's not the job, it's not the father's job to remember. It's the son's job to remember. The father put the coat around the son without cleaning him. So therefore, to everyone afar, he looks like the son, reinstated. But to him, he can still smell his filth. Humility. He will never forget the day that he left and went to the pig's pen. He'll never forget the day he came back and his father gave him an embracing hug. You see, the father could take a shower after that. He could take a shower after that. But the son had to go to the feast in a stink. He had to come back in his stink. You see, God understands. I have to cover you in righteousness, cover you in holiness, but I'm not going to remove anything yet. You won't forget the day that I brought you out. You won't forget the day I reinstated you. But we forget. Because you never went out to get dirty. You were locked up the entire time. You were following rules that God never made, that man made. So you are pleasing a false father. Just so everyone knows, the fact that you have a son does not mean that you are a father. Just because you give birth to a daughter does not mean that you are a father. Just because you can beat your kids does not mean that you are a parent. But it's the love that defines you. It's the love that defines you. Jesus. The reason I had caution, watch your step. Every time God brings this to my mind, all I hear is the cries of hundreds of thousands of people who are still waiting to come back, who are waiting for a father who will open his arms and reinstate them. With this, I remember my own life. Whereas I was looking for a mentor, could never find one. I didn't even want to talk about father. I just wanted someone who could teach me just so I can know. And I could never find it. And what happened was, I ended up walking out. And as I walked out, I still experienced all the things that were inside of me coming out. And as I made that circle to come back home, the gates were closed. But I was still free. And then God took me on another path, in another circle, with another father in the middle. But this time, I wasn't what they called me over there. This cycle was a refreshing, was a renewal. They called me things like, you must be demon possessed. You're not following God. Don't let people do these things to you. This is when they cared about my spiritual state, when I was finding my true father. But when I was over here, they could care less. I would manifest sin. All it was is, shh, be quiet, don't tell nobody. I would manifest it, don't, be quiet, keep it in. Don't let no one see. But then God said, come over here. I've got a new house for you. See, this is what's happening. This is what's going to happen in this new generation. You're going to see a physical migration out of certain churches. You are going to see fathers starve because they will have no sons to work with. They will have no daughters to work with. And you will see a generation going through a path of righteousness, going through a path of holiness, and they will reach their father, and they shall be reinstated. Jesus. I was showing Prophet Jerry this passage that I seen, this statement that I seen online, and it talks about private-owned hospitals and public hospitals. It says, a privately owned hospital may turn away patients in a non-emergency, but public hospitals cannot refuse care. Public hospitals funded by the taxpayers' dollars are held to a different standard than privately owned. For nonprofit hospitals, this means that a public hospital is the best option for those without health insurance or means to pay for care. And as I read this, it popped up in my head. I was like, that makes sense. Anything under God is for the public. It was never made to be private. It was never made to be kept in secret. Because what he gave to us, he can give to others. It was freely given. But when you go to the house of chains, there is a disconnect from the leader and God. Therefore, the church becomes privately owned. There are funds that people can never track to see where they're coming from. There are miracles happening. Yes, there's still miracles happening because it's a hospital. There's miracles still happening in that house of chains. But there's a huge price to pay. There are contracts signed for loyalty. There is money given as bribery. There are sermons preached just for the likes. And what God showed me is that the weight is on us. He's not going to just get rid of these places, but he's going to amplify our weight. He is going to amplify how much we can carry, how much we can bear, because the migration that's coming is going to overload our systems. We won't even have place to put some of these people. We will have to have an overabundance of love just to cover what some of these people are coming in with. And this is the scary part. Those are the warriors. Those are the ones that are going to be winning the battles. You see, the enemy identified them, and he saw them as a threat. And then he saw someone else who was willing to be used and used them and made them a leader to stop the movement. But what God showed me, what is to come, is glorious. What is to come is glorious. You will have brothers and sisters not of the same family, but of the same spirit. It'll be our job to be as the older brother and divide with them what we have. Not to identify them as adopted or drafted in. It'll be our job to divide, to show our gifts, to teach, and to grow in the spirit. See, I didn't come here to make you shout. I don't never come to make you shout. I'm here to teach you something. I'm here to show you something. Because this isn't always about running around, catching the Holy Ghost, flips. It's about reconciliation. And they come from all corners. They call from all corners. It doesn't matter what tattoo is on their face, what's on their body, what piercings they have. You are called. My job isn't to judge you. See, the son never forgot who he was. He partied, yes. He enjoyed himself, yes. But he never forgot who he was. It took that breaking moment for him to realize, I have a home. I speak to some people in this congregation, don't forget you have a home. Some of us have to go on that walk. And the crazy thing is, we don't all go through it at the same time. So we all look strange to one another at the same time. Someone's going through righteousness, someone's just getting their sin out. Both have to remember that there's still a home. We can never forget that we're all going to the same place. We all have a process. But we can never forget where our home is. You see, animals get it. Humans, sometimes we don't get it. They say if you train a dog well and you let him go, eventually he will come back home when he's hungry and tired and he's done playing around. But the problem is you have to train them well. You have to show them that this is where you enter in. This is our house. Spend time inside. Sometimes you have to stay inside. I can't let you go outside yet. Then let them go outside. And then sometimes you do it in increments. Give them 5 minutes, come back inside. Give him an hour, come back inside. So that he remembers. You see, being a son, you have so much freedom. You can roam throughout the entire palace of your father. So that means you know where his kingdom begins and where it ends. So his son returning back home knew the very steps he took to get out. And it hurts. It hurts to feel the pain that people feel when they return and they can't enter in. All he wants is just to come back home. All they want is just to come back home. But the church makes a way so it's so difficult for them to return. You have to come back now and deal with the sin that you released out there. What type of foolishness is that? God sent you out so that you could release it. And then for you to come back, and now you want to bring it back here. Where is the syncing with the Father? Why can't the leaders hear? Why can't they hear? It's a problem. It's a deep, deep problem. And yet we still want to follow these fools. We still want to follow them, and we still want to pledge our allegiance to them. Because it would be too hard to start all over. It would be too hard. I don't know myself. You see, the son came back home with just the title of son. Who he was gone. Who he is now is completely different. He will have a greater appreciation for his father and for his brother and for the servants that are in the house. He will walk with kindness. He will walk with love. You see, there's a reason why the Bible said older and younger. You see, when we talk about being old in the Bible, it talks about having more experience with the Father. So the younger he was, he had less experience with the Father. So that means he was lacking some of the Father's traits. So when he wanted to leave, the Father said, go. Because if you were of me, you'd stay. You'd know your duty. So I got to let you go so that you could lose yourself and then return to me and be like me. But yet we have the opposite in some churches. What we have is the continuous growth of wolves who are just taught to keep people trapped. And then those trapped keep other people trapped. And then you have a congregation of trapped people who are all, honestly, they want to experience God. But they have a caged experience. You see, they've done studies where they've tortured people and they put them in cages. And as soon as they take them out, they're like beasts. And they don't like the light. You didn't get it. They are like beasts. And they don't like revelation to realize who they were. They want to go back to the cage. Some leaders in some congregations have been put in cages in the darkness and have been taught doctrines in the darkness. And when it's time for them to come out into the light, they rather go back into the cage and teach from the cage. And what they do is they buy millions of cages and they put their congregations in the cage. You probably will never hear this anywhere else. But you have the right given by God to get up and leave any church you are a part of that will not teach you in revelation and in truth. You owe no pastor, even here, you don't owe me anything. If you come to hear me speak, go somewhere else. You owe God. So if you go somewhere and you don't hear him, there's no freedom. Don't chain yourself up. You are free to go. You are free to walk and take that journey to find. I didn't say church hop. Discover what's inside of you that needs to come out. Because out after that experience is a new you. That new you will be able to identify where the Father is. Because that new you is the same one that left God in the beginning. So you'll be empty of personal opinions. You'll be empty of that, oh no, I can only go to a church that has 30,000 people or more. You'll be empty of that. No, this church is too small. They don't got the glory. You'll be empty of that. All those things are chains that are blocking you from experiencing the Father. The Lord has something incredible that is going to happen before he comes. The people that you see standing, that will stand and preach the word of God, are going to be those that were rejected, those that were cursed, those that who you could never imagine being the called. And on the day that God calls his people, you will see the pastors in their nice suits and all their rings and all their jewelry, and they will stand up to the gate and they will say, God, I did all this stuff for you. I took your sick and I healed them. I did all this stuff for them. You better let me in. That's the talk of a wolf. A wolf is aggressive. A wolf is even to its own kind, they're aggressive. God came for the sheep. For when he calls, they hear the voice. And sheep are going to wait for the shepherd to pick them up. You see, there's a difference. Some of these pastors are waiting to walk in. The sheep are waiting to be picked up and carried in. This is how you know the difference between a sheep and a wolf. These imposters will keep their heads high and walk into heaven and say, I want that seat. But there will be the same restriction that they put on the sheep will be put on them. So as they stand and they gaze, I want that seat, they'll never be able to enter. And as they, and I know, I feel it. They're going to get a glimpse of who gets to go up. They're going to see the ones that they cursed, that they kicked out, that they punched, they kicked. They're going to see those being lifted up and the glory being put on them. As they are changed and they rise up, their eyes will be wide open. And at that moment is the only time they will realize what they did. See, the hardest part is to say that not everybody is called. The easy part is to say everybody's going to make it to heaven. I can preach that anywhere, and and they'll give me a salary, and I'll say everybody's going to make it. No. There's some people that will not. We have to understand that there are some agents whose sole purpose is to keep you from returning to the Father. There are some people out there whose life's mission is to make $1 with you dying. And the sad part about it is they're in the church. You see, we get so surprised when it's the church. But this is where you are going to see everything. This is where you see the copycats. This is because why? This is where when we gather together, the glory is here. You see, it's not these four walls. I don't want you guys to get used to that. You are the temple. And when temples come together, you create the kingdom. And when the kingdom is present, the king is present. And where he's present, there is no slavery. There's freedom. But what happens is that you get a council of bishops, a house of apostles, who are not of the kingdom. So when they gather together and they make doctrines together, they make doctrines to keep you away from the glory. And when that happens, they will lock you in with their jaws, with the words that they speak. See, God has called all of us to freedom. He's called all of us to go on our paths. Because I wasn't born into this. I didn't just wake up perfect and become a pastor. I went through my dirt. I'm proud to say that I went through my dirt, that I've experienced what was inside of me. I'm proud to say that because what was inside of me is out of me now. As I walk, I remember the stench, but my clothing tells me where I belong. And the last thing is that the Father put the signet, which is a ring, which is a symbol. When you see pastors have this, it's not just, oh, I got to get a pastor's ring. It's a symbol of power. It's a symbol of power that you were ordained into. He put the robe back on the son. Then he took the ring off of his finger and put it on the son. That display shows you that son is not lacking in any power. He could say, kill this servant today, that moment, and it would happen. But just because you have the power doesn't mean anything, because he just experienced love. Love and power is the worst weapon that the enemy wants to see. He would rather you have love and no power, or power, no love. But put those two together, you are unbreakable. If you could love someone and you could cast out what's inside of them, you have now reinstated them into their glory. If I could see into your life and speak into your life and love you to walk you through the steps to get there, what could stop you? What could prevent you from getting back to the Father? You see, we miss this entire thing because all we want to tell people is that sons, you can't be wild and rebellious. You see what happened to the lost son. They always come back. They always come. That's what I heard. But it's more to the story. There's more to it. It's deeper. It's deeper. And as I leave you today, it's never too late for you to come back. It's never too late for you to come back. Don't wait till the Father leaves the house for you to return. Return when the Father's there. Don't wait for the Father to leave, then you return. There's no reinstatement. There's no celebration. You now have to carry your own weight. This is what's going to happen after the Father returns. Many will return back to the Father's house, but the Father won't be there. At that time, you will have to carry yourself, clean yourself. You'll never be able to reinstate yourself. You're going to have to work in your filth and remember, and hopefully the Father comes to return to get you back. Amen.